My doctor said something to me last spring that I keep coming back to. She said, "Pat, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. You're 15 years ahead of most people I see at your age." She didn't mean I was remarkable. She's a good doctor, and she doesn't traffic in flattery. She meant something specific, that the things I've been doing consistently for the last decade have compounded. And I thought about that on the drive home. 15 years ahead. The things she was looking at were not dramatic. No supplements with research behind them I spent thousands on. No program I paid a coach to create. No genetic advantage I could claim and be smug about. They were the same unglamorous things most people know about and don't do consistently. That's the part nobody tells you. It isn't what, it's how long. I want to say something about the how long before I get into the list, because I think it's the thing that makes the list mean something, rather than just being another piece of health content that gets read and not applied. None of what I'm going to tell you is unusual. None of it is expensive. None of it requires willpower beyond the first few months. After the first few months, it doesn't require willpower at all. It requires habit, and habit is a completely different mechanism. Willpower is a finite resource. You use it up. It runs out exactly when you need it most. Habit doesn't work that way. Habit is infrastructure. You build it once, slowly, imperfectly, across many months, and then it operates, without effort, without decision, without the morning negotiation of whether you're going to do the thing or not. The goal is to get past willpower and into habit. Everything I'm about to tell you requires willpower to start, but not for long. After 6 months, the oatmeal is simply breakfast. After a year, the salmon twice a week is simply Tuesday and Friday. The negotiation is over. That's what Dr. Reyes was looking at. 10 years of infrastructure and the outcomes it produces. My name is Pat Walsh. I'm 80 years old. I ran a department for 30 years. I raised 2 children, mostly alone. I had a heart attack at 71 and recovered. And I am, by most measures, still sharp and still present. I want to tell you what I actually do, not to lecture you, because knowing the theory and actually hearing from someone who's done it for decades, those are different things. First, I eat breakfast every day. I know that sounds too simple, but I mean I eat a real breakfast, not coffee and an excuse. Every single day since my cardiac event 10 years ago. Oatmeal, real oats, not the packet kind, with walnuts and a banana. Or eggs, 2 eggs scrambled with a piece of rye toast. Or sometimes on weekends, plain Greek yogurt with berries and a handful of almonds. The point is not the specific foods. The point is that I start every day by deliberately feeding myself something real, something my body can actually use. I was not a breakfast person before my heart attack. Coffee and movement, that was my morning. The cardiac rehab coordinator, a man named Tom who kept giving me questions I couldn't answer, told me that breakfast was non-negotiable. He said, "Ms. Walsh, You wouldn't run a department on no fuel for 6 hours and expect good outcomes. I couldn't argue with the logic. What I noticed over months of eating actual breakfast was that the middle of the morning changed. The drop that used to happen around 10:30, the flattening that I'd attributed to the natural rhythm of the day, went away, or became much smaller. I had attributed that flattening to getting older, to just how my body worked. It was neither. It was no breakfast. Second, I eat fish at least twice a week. Not because I particularly love fish, I like it fine, but I like it the way you like a reliable colleague, with respect, not passion. Salmon usually, canned sardines when I don't feel like cooking. Tuna, not every week, but regularly. The omega-3 fatty acids have research behind them that the cardiologist explained and I took seriously. I won't bore you with the mechanisms. The point is, twice a week, fish. That's it. That's the rule. I want to say something about the simplicity of the rule. The rule is its own technology, twice a week. Not as much as possible, not on a schedule that requires tracking, twice a week. Tuesday and Friday, or Wednesday and Saturday, whichever pair you can sustain without drama. The salmon doesn't have to be elaborate. A piece of salmon in a pan with olive oil and whatever green thing is in the refrigerator. 20 minutes. Dinner is done. The body receives what it needs. Third, leafy greens every day. This one sounds like something you've heard 1,000 times. It sounds like it because it's true. Spinach in my scrambled eggs, arugula in a salad at lunch, which I dress myself with olive oil and lemon, no bottle dressing. Kale in soup. The variety matters less than the consistency. Every day, not most days, every day. I have been doing this for 9 years. 9 years of accumulated green vegetables is not the same as the occasional salad. The body notices the difference. What I want to say about the greens is this: they became easy. Not immediately. For the first several months, I was adding spinach to eggs while thinking about how I would rather not be adding spinach to eggs. Then I stopped thinking about it. Now the eggs without the spinach would feel incomplete. That is what habit looks like once it's built. Not enjoyment necessarily, incompleteness in its absence. Fourth, I eat walnuts. A small handful. Every morning with breakfast. Sometimes as an afternoon snack with an apple. My cardiologist, Dr. Reyes, told me after my event that walnuts have the strongest data of any nut for heart health. She was not someone given to oversimplification. I took the recommendation. I bought a bag of raw walnuts and put them in a bowl on the counter. That was 9 years ago. The bowl is still there. The bowl on the counter is the technology, not the walnuts, the bowl. Because if the walnuts are in a bag in the pantry, you think about them but often don't get them. If they're in a bowl on the counter, you eat them while you're waiting for the coffee. Visibility is a habit tool. Put the things you want to eat where you will see them. Remove the things you don't want to eat from sight. Your behavior will follow your environment more than you think. Fifth, I cook most of my own food. Not because I'm a great cook, I'm a competent cook. I approach cooking the same way I approached administration. Learn the system, execute reliably, adjust as needed. But the reason I cook most of my own food is control. When I cook, I know what's in it. I know how much salt. I know whether the oil is olive or something cheaper. I know there's no added sugar in my salad dressing because I made the salad dressing. It's not that restaurant food is poison. It's that when you eat out often, you lose control of inputs, and inputs matter. I spent 30 years in healthcare. I watched inputs matter in extremely specific ways. I'll add something I didn't expect. Cooking my own food changed my relationship with eating. When you make something yourself, you eat it differently. You eat it at the table. You eat it at a reasonable pace. You taste it. For 30 years, I ate at my desk. Meals were functional. I don't remember most of them. The meals I cook now, I remember. Not because they're extraordinary, because I'm present for them. And presence, it turns out, is what makes an experience real. Sixth, I don't eat much sugar. This one evolved after the heart attack. Before, occasional dessert, not excessive. After, occasional dessert, much more occasional. I didn't cut it entirely. That's not sustainable, and I'm not interested in unsustainable. I cut it significantly. The practical mechanism, I stopped keeping sweets in the apartment. If I want something sweet, I have fruit. If I really want a dessert, I go get one deliberately. That deliberate step adds enough friction that it happens rarely. And when it does happen, I enjoy it without guilt. That part is also important. The guilt around food is its own problem. I spent years in a complicated relationship with food. Not extreme, but complicated. Eating something, regretting it. Restricting, then compensating. The low-grade moral charge that most of us carry around what we put in our bodies. At some point, I decided that food was not a moral category. It was an input. Some inputs served my body better. Some were pleasurable in ways that made occasional use worthwhile. That was the whole analysis. The dessert, when I want it, is just dessert, not a failure, not a negotiation, not a debt I'm accruing, just dessert. And it's better for being that simple. Seventh, I drink water. Predictable advice, also effective. I keep a glass of water on my kitchen table throughout the day. Not a special bottle, not a tracking app, just a glass on the table that I refill. When I see it, I drink it. That's the whole system. In 9 years, it has never failed me. I want to say something about what dehydration feels like at 80. Or rather what I had assumed was just how 80 felt, that turned out to be dehydration. The slight fogginess in the late afternoon, the tiredness that had nothing to do with sleep, the headache that arrived without clear cause. I thought that was aging. Some of it was something much simpler. The glass on the table solved most of it. Bodies at 80 don't always send clear signals. The thirst mechanism becomes less reliable. You stop noticing you're thirsty. The solution is not to wait for thirst. The solution is the glass on the table. Eighth, I eat real food, not food products. Let me explain what I mean. If something has more than 5 ingredients, I read the list. If I don't recognize most of them, I put it back. This is not a perfect rule. It's a useful heuristic. Real food: an apple, a piece of salmon, a handful of walnuts, an egg. Food products: most things in packages with health claims on the front. The more aggressively something advertises itself as healthy, the more suspicious I am. Real food doesn't usually need to make that argument. I noticed that when I moved toward real food, the grocery store became simpler. Most of what I needed was on the outside edges of the store: produce, protein, dairy. The middle aisles, the ones with the packages and the health claims, became mostly optional. Not entirely. I buy things in packages. Sardines, for instance, come in a can. But the shift toward simple, recognizable ingredients changed both what I ate and how I thought about eating. Ninth, I cook with olive oil. Every day. For everything that needs fat to cook in. I switched to olive oil in 2009 after my cardiac rehab. It's not complicated. Good olive oil, a reasonable amount, every day. The research on olive oil and cardiovascular health is extensive. I don't need to summarize it. Dr. Reyes summarized it very clearly in 2009, and I've acted on it since. The olive oil, like the walnuts, is visible in my kitchen. It sits on the counter, not in a cabinet, not something I have to look for, something I reach for automatically when I start cooking. Again, environment as habit technology. Make the right choice the easy choice. Don't rely on decision, rely on setup. 10th, I eat slowly. This is the one that nobody mentions, and I think it matters as much as anything else. I put the phone away when I eat. I sit at the table. I put food on a plate, actually on a plate, not eaten over the counter. I eat slowly enough that I can tell when I'm no longer hungry, which means I don't usually overeat, not because I'm disciplined, because I gave my body enough time to communicate. For 30 years of my career, I ate at my desk. Meals were fuel I consumed while doing something else. I didn't taste most of them. I don't remember most of them. Now I remember my meals. That's worth something. The slow meal is also, I've found, one of the more reliable forms of rest I have. 20 minutes at the table with food and nothing else. No screens, no problems being solved, no planning, just the meal. It sounds like nothing. After 30 years of eating at a desk, it felt like an enormous amount. Now it feels like the right way, the only way, actually. The meal with the attention it deserves. Here is the unspectacular truth. Nothing I've just told you is revolutionary. You have probably heard most of it before. The difference is not the information. The difference is doing it every day for 10 years. Not most days, not when it's convenient, every day, quietly, consistently, without drama. That's it. That is the whole secret. Consistency is the thing the wellness industry doesn't sell because you can't package it. My cardiac event scared me in the right direction. I wish it hadn't taken that, but it did. And since then, I have treated my body with the same disciplined consistency I used to give my department. The body responds the way a department does. It thrives on reliable input, consistent maintenance, and not being asked to perform on empty. Make the inputs real, make them consistent. Do that long enough and the outcomes compound. Dr. Reyes called it 15 years ahead. I call it what it is, 10 years of oatmeal, salmon, and walnuts. And a glass of water on the table. And meals eaten at the actual table. And the slow return after decades to treating eating like the serious and good thing it is. If any of this was useful, leave me a comment. I read them all. And if you know someone who keeps reading about health but hasn't started the doing, send this to them. The information won't change. The starting point is always today.